This week on the Three Rings podcast.
In film, you become a fan of the product. In music, you become a fan of the person.
What's interesting there is that we keep calling them actors. Where pop stars, we call them artists.
The whole way our industry built is currently set up to encourage you not to think like an artist.
Welcome to the 28th episode of the Three Rings podcast. My name's Stuart Bishop and I'm here with my fellow director, Bailey J. Muir.
Before we get into the video, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and turn on your notification bell so you know all about next week.
This week's topic is the BBC's recent commentary on how film stars faded and pop stars took over. Yo, Bailey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. What's happening?
Well, we're here again. Just me and you this week again. Very important topic, I feel like.
I know, I'm looking forward to this.
Interesting one, because I saw this. I was walking the dog, and I checked my phone, and I saw this on the BBC website, and I thought, God, this is an interesting topic. But of course, we're not really going to talk about the actual article. We're gonna dissect and talk about sort of our thoughts, what came from that article, aren't we?
Yeah, the topic that the article is about.
Yes. So why don't you let everyone know what this article was all about?
Yeah, so if you want to read the actual thing before we get into this, it will be linked down in the description below. But to give you a rough summary, basically, the article is talking about how if you go back to the 1940s, 1950s, etc., film stars were the biggest celebrities on the planet, the most relevant, the most famous, the ones who had the most fans. And it was talking about how in recent times that's now flipped and music artists have now become the most relevant celebrities. And it was giving all sorts of interesting observations as to why that might have happened, what the different factors are that are in play there, how that's changed over a period of time, which is what we're going to dissect throughout this episode and kind of give our opinions on. So to throw this back to you, Stuart, I found this article fascinating because in my whole lifetime, I feel like music artists have always been on top. Is there a time in your childhood where film stars were still the top? What is your experience of that?
Well, thank you very much for pointing out that I'm much, much older than you.
You're welcome.
I feel like a lot of your questions are loaded on the fact that you know that I'm from a different generation. Well, right, okay. To me, film stars were always bigger than pop stars, apart from Michael Jackson. There was a couple of people, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and maybe Prince. All the other pop stars were big pop stars, but if you saw a film star, and I'm talking about back, then your Tom Cruises, your Brad Pitts, these, and then before that, you had all the sort of the British stars, which is before my time, but all the Richard Harris, the Peter O'Toole, the Richard Burton, these were seen as the Hellraisers, who basically were, no matter what they were getting up to behind closed doors, were still allowed to be in these massive films. Which nowadays, if one of these people were doing something bad, they would probably be cancelled and people wouldn't be into them or whatever. So to me, it was always that film stars were bigger, but you did get the occasional pop star like Michael Jackson who preceded or superseded or whatever the correct term is. And it's interesting because when we go into what, the reasons behind this, we'll be able to come back onto Michael Jackson and go, well, how comes he was sort of seen as sort of bigger? But film stars, for me, they were always bigger because you didn't know anything about them. They were very elusive. We didn't know anything about them. And it was like, wow, if you're lucky, you would see them in an interview about the film, and you might see them being photographed coming out of the Ivy or somewhere exclusive, where pop stars always seem to be a little bit more sort of ragged and sort of ill-disciplined and just sort of happy-go-lucky. It's interesting because when we first looked at this, I was like, oh, really? I wasn't really sure about the article. But when speaking to you, you just you blew my mind actually with how you were seeing it, because you, like you said, you've only ever seen it in a certain way that Popstars have been bigger. What was your initial thoughts then when you saw when you read it?
I mean, I think it comes down to relatability. And I think this is probably why in my lifetime, I've only ever known it be music artists at the top. I feel like relatability is what creates fans of the actual star themselves. So with the Hollywood actors, because we never get an insight to their life, they don't really get like a fan club going for them in the same way that if you come to the present day, like Taylor Swift with the Swifties, it's huge. And same if you go back like Beatlemania, you're connecting more with them because their art is about themselves. So when you're listening to a Michael Jackson song that's maybe about a heartbreak, there's people going, oh, that reminds me of my heartbreak I'm going through right now. So people find connection in it, which creates that sense of fandom. I love this artist. I don't feel like you would ever really sit and watch a film and go, that feels like my life right now. I connect to it. It's like a film you enjoy, whereas music you relate to. And for me, that's what creates the difference. You care more about the music artist because they feel more like you. They're like a friend that you've never met. That would be my observation.
So what you're saying is, because you basically have never been alive, I suppose, when it's been any different. So as someone from that generation, you want to know.
Yeah.
Where and our generation, I don't think it was like we didn't expect to know. It's not that we didn't want to; we didn't expect to know because you weren't given that information on Popstars. On Film Stars. Now with Popstars, what was interesting, and the reason why Popstars I always used to think were not as big as Film Stars was because you would only really hear about Popstars when they'd done something bad. So you were continuously being shown, oh, pop stars are doing bad things, and oh, they're getting drunk, and oh, they've split from their record label, which it was always perceived, that sort of extra information was perceived as negative. Now, you've only ever grown up being sort of told that actually, well, to see all this information is a positive thing. And you know, what you're saying is you're not interested in someone that you can't find nothing about. Where it was different for me, it was like, well, I don't want to know more. You know, the moment we found out more about Michael Jackson, that's where it all went pear-shaped.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the nature of the project. Like, I do think there's something still more glamorous about a film star that they are more exclusive. I think that probably comes down to, with a music artist, you can go and see them on tour. You expect to be able to see the actual person in real life. A film star, unless you're going to like red carpet premieres, you wouldn't ever expect to actually see in the real world.
Good point.
So I think there still is something more glamorous there. But I just think the way fandoms are built means the music artists are going to be more relevant always. Because if you compare it to film, like in film, let's say you're a fan of Star Wars. You're a fan of Star Wars. You're not a fan of Harrison Ford or Ewan McGregor. Whereas in music, if we take Justin Timberlake, you would always say you were a Justin Timberlake fan. You'd never be like, I'm a fan of the Justified album.
Yeah.
So it's like, in film, you become a fan of the product. In music, you become a fan of the person. And I think that's what makes this shift that the BBC are pointing out. It's more derivative of the actual individual. And I guess that's down to the intellectual property itself. It's the way that's pitched.
Well, we'll move on to that, because film stars, the biggest film stars in the world, they would do their films, and then they might, if they were very big, you might see them at the airport, perfume. But there wasn't much else. If they did an advert, it would be, I remember there was Brad Pitt did an advert before actors did not actors, obviously all actors do adverts, but film stars. And there was a series of Japanese commercials where they were using big people, and it was in the news, they paid millions to be in these adverts. And it was seen as, oh my God, Brad Pitt is in an advert. So we aren't expecting anything more from those film stars. The only thing is now is we're not seeing, there's no hype about cinema anymore. No one's going, yes, maybe Tom Cruise, because he's going to turn up, he's going to rock it at the premiere, he's going to get an autograph, give an autograph for everyone, and it's huge. But that really, I mean, we'll talk. There are some others, and interesting. We'll talk about the ones that are doing it correctly, that are, I suppose, proceeding, making it a bit sort of like a pop star. But can you sort of see how, if they're, it just wasn't cool. It wasn't cool for actors to do anything but with pop stars, they could do kind of anything. It seemed.
Well, I think it comes back to the nature of the work, because obviously an actor is made to facilitate someone else's vision. So again, within cinema, you might meet someone who actually goes, I'm a fan of Martin Scorsese, or I'm a fan of James Cameron. But the actors in those projects, as famous as they are, don't have a fandom. The pop stars can get away with doing whatever they want, because what they're known for is who they are anyway. An actor, that's not what they're known for. So actually, if they go off the rails, that's not acceptable. Pop star, if they go off the rails, actually, there's fans sat there being like, well, they might be off the rails right now, but that means there's a fucking good album coming, because they've got plenty of material to write about. So I guess even in the pop world, chaos creates more art. Acting is not that derivative.
Look at Adele. She's made a whole career on divorces and splits and things like that. So when I think about an actor who has kind of shown too much, I think of Shia LaBeouf.
Yes.
He was, there was a point where he got the Indiana Jones film where he was the son of Harrison, of Indiana Jones. He was in Transformers, and it all seemed like he was going to be the next big superstar. And then I'm not sure what happened personal-wise, just weird stuff seemed to happen. Do you know more about that?
I don't know the in-depth of what was going on in his personal life. Obviously, I know there was some interviews started to come out that people were like, this guy's just a knobhead. Obviously, there's always going to be more context to that underneath what was going on. But he was overexposed in a moment that he obviously weren't in a place in his life to be exposed, would be my observation without really knowing too much.
It seemed like he had some kind of mental breakdown or something like that. We should have really looked to see what it was, but I just remember at the time thinking, well, that's his career over. And interesting, it kind of was. If you think about it, I'm sure he's still got time to and how the world loves a big comeback, and I'm sure there is an Oscar film for him in the future.
Well, that's it. Look at Robert Downey Jr. It's like the same pattern, really.
Yes.
Obviously, Downey Jr.'s was a bit worse, I think, but
yes. Well, Mel Gibson, he's had episodes of talking about Jews and stuff like that. But if you're big enough, you can come back, I think, but it takes a while, and he's not getting the big roles. He's having to do independent films, it seems. He's not the flavor of the month. So with acting, it seems like you don't get the opportunity as much as pop stars to get yourself out of the hole, because with pop stars you can kind of do it straight away. Right, let's start working on this. Where with an actor, it might be, well, right, no one's giving me work. When I do get work, that's not going to come out for another year.
Well, I think this is the thing with actors, because it's where can I get my next bit of work. So with an actor, when they go off the rails, they're a risk to somebody else's name and reputation. With a pop star, let's say Justin Timberlake went off the rails, Justin Timberlake can't be a risk to Justin Timberlake's name and reputation.
Yes.
So in a sense, a pop star is their own boss. An actor isn't. So an actor can be told off. Obviously, a record label can still come down on a pop star, but they're way less likely to because of the power positions.
Well, I think history sort of says or shows that when an artist has gone off the rails, it's part of their history.
Yeah.
It's not seen as something that, oh, that was, if you think about all the rock stars and, most of the rocks, I mean, it is a very different time now. Would we accept pop stars pissed out their face all the time now? Probably not. I don't know.
I think we probably would. If you think Kanye West, despite all the controversy,
Yeah.
can still release a #1 album.
Yeah.
Wiley can still release music, and it has plenty of streams on it.
Yeah.
They can get away with what they want because they have their own fans. Whether that's accepted in the mainstream, maybe not. But because their art is the intellectual property, then they can keep going. So I think this is a key as well. A music artist can always release music, whether they have a label or not. An actor can't bring out a film unless they're hired on a film.
So who then is doing it right? Who has got that pop star kind of feel to them as actors? Let me chuck a couple out to you to see if you agree. I think Tom Cruise, definitely. I think
Not so much as the others that you're about to come out with.
Well, The Rock, definitely, I think. What do you think, The Rock?
I think The Rock, yes, because he transcends genres.
Who else?
I think Ryan Reynolds is the big one.
Yes.
I think the key comes to doing stuff outside your world. The reason when you say Tom Cruise, I'm like, not as much as the others, is because all his stuff is still based in acting. So he's not breaking the bubble. Whereas really, if you take The Rock, his fame, his stardom, hasn't even really come from the acting. It's been enhanced by the acting. But because of his wrestling background, he came to Hollywood with his own fan club already. So he came like a music artist going into film. For example, take Justin Timberlake. He came from doing his first couple of albums, then into film. He brought fans with him. So he had a very different inroad than your traditional actor.
I always liked the things that Justin Timberlake did. I thought he did was it In Time?
Yeah.
He was in that Bad Teacher, but he also was in Social, the Facebook film.
Oh yeah, Social Network.
Yeah, he just always seemed to pop up doing good little things.
He was in a film last year on Netflix that was really, really good.
I can't
remember what it was called, but it was like a crime sort of thing. Like a whodunit kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was on that wavelength. It was like a whodunit thriller. Really good.
Yeah, he always seemed to do good. I thought he's a good actor. But Ryan Reynolds, very interesting because I do hear what you're saying about Tom Cruise. Just to go back on him for a second, actually, before we delve into Ryan Reynolds. But I don't know whether it's for me. It's like Tom Cruise is the last proper film star.
Yeah,
the last one of the because you look at Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt hasn't got the same thing anymore. He used to. I mean, Brad Pitt was like he was like Leonardo DiCaprio. But even Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't think. I don't know. Leonardo DiCaprio is still massive, but
I feel like he's probably like a halfway between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. He's not as big as he was, whereas Tom Cruise is really as big as he's ever been. For me, where I said to you, like, the Hollywood stars are still more glamorous because we don't see them. I feel like Tom Cruise is like on the throne of that.
Yeah.
He is the most exclusive. Like, never mind, you wouldn't expect to see him in real life. You don't even expect to see him on an interview.
Well, it's a massive thing, isn't it, when he did that stuff with James Corden jumping out of planes. But it's always, he's not just going to do something small. It's always massive.
Yeah. I think because he hasn't transcended genres. If you're talking in terms of fandom, I don't think he could come close to the big pop stars or even to a Ryan Reynolds.
No.
But if you were to meet him, you would probably be more starstruck by him than anyone else.
Yes. Serena, who used to work, people will know Serena Sutherland, she's casting a casting agent who works for Curtis Brown, but used to work for Love Rudai. She used to do press little junkets where she would be the person who would bring the celebrities in to have their interview. And she always told me this story. She told me a story about Tom Cruise, that she said that he was the most, she said he was amazing. And the way apparently he remembers everyone's names. And, he said, Serena, is that your name? Like that. He'd obviously been introduced and then remembered her name a couple of minutes later, or, 2 interviews later, or whatever. And she said that made her feel like $1 million. She would have done anything. She would have done anything for him. And it's, Tom Cruise is like, wow, Tom Cruise. So Ryan Reynolds. Now, the reason why I think he is like a pop star is because you look at Wrexham, the big Netflix hit. It's still Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, as opposed to us. We're not finding out really about his personal life, even though it's a fly on the wall documentary kind of thing. He's still playing the character, it seems.
That's it, but nonetheless, he's still crossed that character over into real life.
Yes.
Like, if you bumped into him at a Wrexham match, you would expect to meet the Ryan Reynolds character that you see in his interviews.
Yes.
And I think that's the key to him. He's transitioned it away from not just being someone you see on camera. Like, if you take someone like Keith Lemon, if you were to bump into Lee Francis in the street, you would not expect to meet Keith Lemon.
No.
Ryan Reynolds, it feels like you would meet Ryan Reynolds. I mean, maybe that comes down to his personality actually is just that eccentric, that it is like what's presented.
Yeah, because we're not saying he's being fake, but there is a persona that you would expect to see. You wouldn't expect to see Ryan Reynolds being a dickhead or being horrible.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the way he talks, he's probably just got an absolute art of communication. But the way it's done that's so different to anyone else, it's easy to make it seem like he's playing a character, even though he really is Ryan Reynolds. But yeah, I think the call with him is he's come to real life. There is a place that you feel like you could go and meet him. So he now has fans like a pop star would.
And obviously he's got Deadpool, the character.
Yeah.
Which is it breaks the third, what is it, the third wall?
Fourth wall.
The fourth wall, where it talks to the audience, which again creates this massive thing for him, sort of thing. But we've talked about the actors, and we'll talk about the pop stars. Why because we're saying, okay, well, look, these actors can't do it, so we need to talk about why the pop stars, what is so special about them that enables them to do these things. But just a couple more people who sort of gives the example down to the T about actors, I would say, is Tom Hardy and Jason Statham. Both massive, they're massive actors, but it seems very private. So it's like, again, you wouldn't, do they cut their nose off to spite their face by being sort of private and being, because I can't see anything for Jason Statham out of films apart from maybe a man's perfume. Like,
it's interesting because to make the flip, if they were to take themselves more public, I feel like they'd enter a very similar space to Danny Dyer, where he's almost made a gimmick of himself, not actually made his image better.
I can't believe we're comparing Danny Dyer and Jason Statham.
You know what I mean, though, don't you?
No, yes, definitely.
I guess this is the core to the Ryan Reynolds with Wrexham thing as well. He's put himself in a position that is real life without it having to be about him. Danny Dyer, his brand is actually about him being Danny Dyer, like when he does his documentaries. He's doing it as like his little Cockney going on, do you know what I mean? It's not, I have this product and this product that I'm bringing to market. Like Conor McGregor, the reason he transcends from UFC and pretty much everyone knows him is because he's not just a fighter. He has like the whiskey brand. Obviously, he's just gone into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Again, he's doing more than his own genre.
Yes, it's I think you have to be incredibly talented to be able to do it,
Yes.
because most people would say, just concentrate on what you're doing. Like, stop pissing around with all these other things, because all these other things are the things that normally are people's downfall. Because if you look at sports stars, I always remember Lennox Lewis. The week before his fight with who's the person who knocked him out, and then he got Hazim Rahman, right?
Yeah.
So the week before, it was all like in the papers. Oh, look, Lewis, he's in Vegas, or wherever he was fighting him, but they're filming Ocean's 11, and he had a scene in Ocean's 11. So that was the focus. His focus wasn't on Hazim Rahman, because Hazim Rahman was it was like, one of his mandatories for one of his belts. He was the undisputed, so he had loads of belts at that point where he had to defend, and it was just like, well, Hazim Rahman is just, he's not going to do anything. And then he lost. And then he came back and he beat him, more concentrated.
Yeah, just to pull that back to that, where you said, like, to do like the transcending genres and stuff, you have to be mega talented.
Mm.
I think that can be right, but I don't think that's a definitive rule. Because I think also it can come down to just having the right team around you.
Yes.
Because, for example, take another boxing example, George Foreman.
Yeah.
He's not massively talented at making grills, but because he had a team or advisors around him going, this is a good business decision, he put his name to it and it works.
You're assuming that, Bailey. You don't know. George Foreman might be, before he was a boxer. We'll have to look that up. You never know. He might have been no. Well, actually, I saw something the other day about Hulk Hogan. Apparently, and it's a lie. It's one of Hulk Hogan's lies. There's a few videos out there at the moment saying Hulk Hogan lies about things, and Hulk Hogan was saying that he was originally given the option on the grill, but instead he went for this Hulk Hogan milkshake thing, which obviously bombed. But yes, no, I assume like you that George Foreman is not an expert on grills.
That's it. I think all of these like music artists or actors that bring out like perfumes or whiskey brands and stuff, they're not experts in them fields. Mr. Beast with his burger brand, he's not an expert at making burgers.
Yeah.
But it's aligning with people who can help your brand.
Well, Mr. Beast also had the chocolate, didn't he? Feastables.
Yes, Feastables, yeah. That's it. So it's like, if you've got talent, then wicked, use it. If not, surround yourself with people that have a good entrepreneurial mind that can go, oh, well, your brand can be extended to this, this, and this.
Right. So what are the pop stars doing different then? I've got here as a note, and it says, Bailey will explain. Comes down to intellectual property.
Yes.
Talk to us.
It's exactly that. Pop stars don't need to do as much because everything they do is intellectual property. So where we're just giving them examples of an actor bringing out a perfume or Conor McGregor's whiskey, George Foreman's grills, their art form, their sport, their skill isn't creating intellectual property. So they have to go into other genres to then make it. Or even someone that stays within their own genre, Adam Sandler, has to produce films to make that his intellectual property. It's not enough just to be in other people's. A pop star, everything they bring out is naturally intellectual property. Their albums, their tours, their music videos. So they, in a sense, a pop star doesn't need to do as much as anyone else in entertainment, I would say. What would you say to that, Stuart?
It's interesting because just going back to the actors, there is this thing, and we're going to go on to it in a minute, about where, should it come from a different mindset of how people should sort of start and think about their plan for their career. But I can't think of many actors that I would personally accept if they then did the different things, because I've come from a generation of, well, actors do that, and that's how actors are. Now, actually, let me throw this back to you. Do you respect The Rock as an actor? Do you respect John Cena, Ryan Reynolds as an actor? Like, go on.
Ryan Reynolds, yes.
Mhm.
The other two, no. But I have huge respect for them in a business sense. Possibly more so respect in that sense than I have respect for Ryan Reynolds as an actor. Because the way they've leveraged their brand
Yeah.
is what's phenomenal about them.
Because I think my age group would struggle to give props to The Rock or John Cena, even though I love, I love most of the stuff The Rock's here. Actually, lately I've been going off The Rock, if I'm honest, just because he's gone a little bit. I don't know. I think he's a bit more on the woke side of things. But and I don't know whether has his superstardom peaked with The Rock. Do you know what I mean? Black Adam, was that good?
I think he's at a point in his career that he needs to move again.
Yes.
He's done Hollywood. It's time now to do a brand.
Yeah, something different. Something. He tried that. Isn't he doing the American football thing?
Yeah, I've not really heard much of it, but it's been going at least a year now. Is it X League? Is it called
XFL or something?
XFL. That's it.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the original. Is it the same thing that was with Vince McMahon or not?
Yeah, he bought. I believe he just bought the intellectual property off Vince McMahon.
Right.
I mean, possibly if we were in America, we might know more of this, and it might actually be huge. I don't know, but it feels like he's at a point where he's now ready to do like a Ryan Reynolds buying Wrexham move. I mean, there was rumour he was going to buy Southend, which I know you'd have been gassed about.
God, can you imagine? Like, just anyone buys yes. Yeah, so it's hard for me because for me an actor should be an actor and a pop star should be a pop star. But it's it's incredible now that if you haven't got those extra things, I don't think, actors are going to get to the same levels as they got to before. Unless you have those other things which are going with you, whether it's, I mean, you can literally, as a pop star, you can do anything. As an actor, in the past, you've been limited.
Yeah, that's it. Traditionally, not. But nowadays, actually, if they dare to do it, they can.
Yes. And you will accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
I will accept it because I'm in the entertainment industry, but I don't think people my age and older, they'd be like, oh, well, what's he doing that for? It's they want this here and they want that there.
The face of entertainment has hugely changed, which I think really has been led by like these like YouTube influencers. Like if you take KSI for example, one of the undoubted best examples of fully exploiting your intellectual property.
Yeah.
He can do his music, he can go back to YouTube, he can decide to be a boxer, he can suddenly put on a football match, he can bring out a whole drinks brand. If he wanted to, he could be in a film next week. Like
that's interesting. He hasn't done that yet, has he?
No, but if he wanted to, he could do it in the click of a finger.
Yes. Literally
anything he wants to do, he can do because he's used his brand in a way that it's impossible to box in.
And people will support him. Where with an actor, it's hit and miss. Like every now and again, you might get an actor record a single or something. Yes. Years ago, that was the thing. You might get an actor record a single and it would be oh, well, that's a novelty. And people would support that. Just one single, though. Don't get... if you did a second, then it's like, no. It's very much like Idris Elba. Idris Elba came out with that track a few years ago, which got to #1. But he was rapping on it with, was it Wiley or Megan Thee Stallion? Or he was rapping with a load of people. And then he came in his bit and he got to #1. That's okay. Little cameo, good. But we don't,
I mean, take Zendaya as an example. When she was in what I would call like her transition period between not quite being the child star anymore, but not quite the like Hollywood superstar status yet.
Yeah.
She released I think just one single, and it's a decent song. But now I couldn't imagine her ever just being like, "Oh, I'm dropping an album now." Even though, such as when Euphoria came out, she stars in that, and she does do vocals on a few of the tracks. But I can't imagine her ever going, "Do you know what? I'm now going to do music for a year," which is strange. It feels like a waste of her talent.
Johnny Depp has in the past. He's always been in like bands and stuff, but again, not we're not going to accept it in the charts. Like it's like, oh, that's cool hearing that you've guested with someone at a festival. That's kind of cool, but then it's like, oh, well, that would be sad if Johnny Depp brought out an album. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think anyone's ever really crossed between music and acting as well as Justin Timberlake.
How can film stars, how can they change it up? Because when people become actors, primarily you are poo-pooed if you are going, well, I want to be famous. I want to do this. You know, if you went to a college or a drama school, and said that, you might not even get in.
I think what needs to be done different is encouraging people to use all of their talents from the start. Like, there's so many people in Hollywood that can sing, but because they were made to spend so many years building as an actor, it now seems strange when they go, "Oh, I sing as well, by the way."
Yeah.
It's like they need to use everything they've got from the start. Like, I think Zendaya is a good example to come back to, where she didn't quite capitalize how she could have, because she'd had the child star thing as an actor, but the sort of stuff she was acting in also meant she had to like sing. Like, she did like the theme tunes of the kids' shows and stuff. People always know she can sing. So actually, when she released that first single, I feel like if she kept doing music as well as doing the acting, she could have done both. But it's now she's gone on too long being the actor that it'll be weird when she comes back. Yes. And there's a few others of basically the same era, like Olivia Rodrigo. Started acting, now music artist. Done music artist too long, it'll feel weird now if she goes into Hollywood. Sabrina Carpenter, exactly the same. It's like, if you want to do both, you've got to keep doing both. But don't become known for being in a box. What KSI has done great is never allow himself to be in a box.
I've got a note here, which I think you came up with yesterday. And I don't want us to forget this. It says actors would benefit from going to an entertainment school. So, and then underneath this, would drama schools support this? And I think I made that note, and it was something you said about the entertainment school. It's stripping it down and going, right, what actually do actors need? Because we're gonna loop this sort of, I suppose the arc of this is that we're going to try and put an argument for how dance could benefit from this at the end of this. But how can, what can drama schools do? Because if you're going to a drama school right now, you're learning acting. That's it. I don't think there's any type of training on business, how to send a bloody email, how to get you might get told how to get an agent, but generally acting schools are, here is your acting technique.
Yeah, that's where this came from, because we were writing the plan yesterday, you wanted to put in the question of what should acting schools do different.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know acting schools should do anything different. I think it's a niche in the market that you need acting schools and entertainment schools. Because if your only ambition is to be an actor, then wicked, acting school is definitely right for you. But if you have any sort of ambition to be famous for your art form, you're going to need to be able to do more than your art form. That doesn't mean because you're an actor you have to go into the music industry. But if you're a mega successful Hollywood actor, you're probably going to get booked to host SNL at some point. So you need to be able to present. You need to be able to hold an interview on the radio. You need to be able to go and do a public appearance. There's so much more you need to know than acting if you want to be famous. Same with music. If you want to be seriously famous, you need to be able to do more than music. Dance, you need to be able to do more than dance.
What's interesting there is that we keep calling them actors. Where pop stars, we call them artists.
Yes.
Why are we calling them artists and not actors? You know, it's because actors are just.
Well, they're in a job.
Mm.
Your job is to be an actor. A music artist's job isn't to be an artist because no one employs them. They are the boss.
Mm.
Regardless of the fact that you could say they have to answer to a record label. If you get successful as a music artist, actually the record label want to keep you happy.
So is it the drama schools having to adapt, or you keep saying there's a niche in the market? When you say a niche in the market, what, like a finishing school or entertainment school, a year's entertainment business degree or something, or something that's you've got your skills now. You don't need to keep training. You know what you're doing, but you go, fuck all about the business. So before you're allowed to go out, if you want to become that, you have to do this. If you want to just be a jobbing actor, go for it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually an alternative to like acting college or dance college. Because the people who have the potential to achieve that level of stardom, I think are probably the ones we were talking about last week, where this first year's turning up at dance college, who realistically should be fast-tracked to third year. They're already great dancers. They're ready to work. I'm sure acting, there'll be actors that turn up that are already brilliant and could work. They're the ones that have that level of potential. They don't need 3 years of acting training. They need 3 years of multi-dimensional entertainment training that may have some acting lessons in there, but a whole lot else as well that allows them to unlock that stardom potential rather than great acting career potential.
But does stardom like that, does it actually create amazing art? If you think about it, like, is the Rock ever going to win an Oscar? No. Is he going to entertain us? Yes. But then are we losing the above? Do you know what I mean? If it's seen as secondary to the superstars, are we going to lose the? Are we going to have a generation of people who go, yes, I want to be a superstar, but I want to get my craft good? Or are they going to be like, well, fuck doing all these acting lessons? Do you know what I mean? If The Rock can do it, if John Cena can do it, like,
I don't think it's possible to do both. I think art and entertainment are directly the opposite of each other. It's kind of back to what we were saying last week, where there's been a split. If your aim is fame, that's not going to come from being the greatest artist, because art is niche and perceptive. It has to be appreciated by its like target audience. For example, like wine, you have to have an acquired taste to like certain wines or olives. Art's like that. You're never going to get fandom from art. Even take it to film. Where is the fandom in film? Star Wars. Is Star Wars artistically great? Not at all. But it's great at entertainment. I think they're two very different genres. If you're serious about art and you're an actor, acting school's right. If fame is more important, we need an entertainment school.
I'll pick you up on the Star Wars thing there. I think Andor as a series, that could have won. I'm sure it did win awards. But yeah, generally it's like Marvel, isn't it? You're not expecting to win an Oscar from being in even when they had the end game, that massive build up. I don't think it won any Oscars or anything, did it?
No. And this is the thing, even something like Andor, on an artistic level, it's not that great. And this is where art is so perceptive. Like, I don't know if you've seen it. There was a film last year called Poor Things, which is
No.
artistically phenomenal. I don't actually like the film, but you can still appreciate the level of art in that. I feel like something like Andor, as good as it is, it's something that would be very widely enjoyed. I think true art is creating something where even if you don't enjoy it, you can appreciate it.
Yes. But then saying that, you look at someone like Michael Jackson, he reached a level where where everyone, only for a small period, where he got everyone in the world was like, fucking hell, Michael Jackson. And then the moment he hit that point was the moment it started it was like he was always on the scale down.
But I wonder if his fandom created something where everyone appreciated it. Not necessarily everyone enjoyed it, but because everyone appreciated it so much, it feels like everyone enjoyed it. Because there'd be plenty of people who didn't like anything else of that genre of music that would say they liked Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So actually, did they just appreciate the art?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God, he was when I was younger. I can't. We'll probably never have anyone like that again, simply because that now there is so much choice for everyone, and you can have, there'll be people out there who don't know Taylor Swift, where years ago, because we only had 3 or 4 channels and few radio stations, and they only played, you didn't, if you were, unless you were with the top, if you weren't with the record companies, you weren't getting played. Simple as that. So it's like, there was a point when I was younger, they floated a 100-foot statue down the Thames of Michael Jackson. He was just so big, it was unbelievable. But nowadays it feels like, because we've had this debate many a times about Taylor Swift, she is definitely as big as Michael Jackson, but it doesn't seem it. She's selling the records, she's doing the things. It's like it's just there's another piece of news on Taylor Swift today. Oh, she's just beat the record for this, or she's just done that.
It's a different form of relevancy.
Mm.
Michael Jackson was relevant for being an artist, essentially, because it weren't just the music. It was the videos, it was the films he'd then create of them. Yeah. It was the artwork of the actual covers. Like, everything he did was so meticulous.
Moonwalker, the film.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big PlayStation game, not PlayStation, like a Sony, whatever it was, game that was as well, Moonwalker.
Yeah, whereas like Taylor Swift, like, I think she's artistically great, lyrically. Some of the videos, but very limited as to which ones. Michael Jackson, you would say every single one. So I think he is way more of an artist than her.
Yeah.
And she's way more of a celebrity than him. Taylor Swift is more entertainment. Michael Jackson is more art.
Yeah. It's interesting. So the reason why, you see, we were talking about yesterday when you said about that entertainment score. I like that idea.
It reminds me, I used to watch a TV show when I was a kid called School for Stars on CBBC. I think it was filmed at Italia Conti.
Oh, yeah.
That School for Stars name, I think, is like exactly what we need.
Well, when I was working on TV in Latin America, every day you'd have to go to the studios. And when I say studios, it was like, they had their own indoor car, underground car. It was massive, this place. It was like going to MGM studios or something, and you can walk about, and there's people with bloody, cages with animals in, and sets going past you, and just everything. And on the location, they actually had a school, and the people they were training in that school were then being signed. They were signed to the studios, who were then being in the what they call the telenovelas, I think it is, which is the soaps, the Mexican soaps, which are massive. They are in Latin America, and they were being taught not just acting, but they were being taught how to. It was like an entertainment school.
I mean, this is like the whole thing with Disney Child Stars, isn't it?
Yes.
You have no idea how to get into that school because it's kind of an unofficial school, but we all know it exists. It's where Justin Timberlake came from, Britney Spears, recent times Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo,
Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, Miley Cyrus, Jenna Ortega. They've all come from that route. It exists, but it's how do we pick that up and make it in an accessible form that people know how to try and get into?
Because the thing we brought up yesterday, and we should have filmed. We keep saying this, should have filmed yesterday, shouldn't we? Is who is going to teach them? You know, how does it become a syllabus? How does it become a not a lesson? What do you call it? Not a syllabus.
Curriculum.
A curriculum. You know, because we've always said this about dance. You know, we're bringing it to dance now in a minute. But we've always said, oh, the industry has to change. When we spoke to Dax in his guest episode, you know, we were talking about how the industry needs to change and it needs to have, you know, these things being taught. But that's all very well saying that. But if you haven't got enough people to, you know, me and you go on about this, but we're not going to go and sit in a college, are we?
No.
And you know, not unless they're going to pay us a lot of money, you know, extreme amounts of money, you know, because we don't want to do it. But we'll advise our artists, maybe the ones we manage. But go on.
This is a hard thing with it as well, because even me and you that know way more about it than most people in our industry, we're not experts in it.
No.
There isn't an expert in it.
No.
Because it's such a recent split of art and entertainment are separate that everyone's still discovering how to exploit that space. Even the concept of intellectual property for an artist is relatively new. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have looked at a music artist and made the observation of like, oh yeah, well, all those albums are just intellectual property.
Yeah.
It's even though the term's always existed, it's very recent that we've made any sort of conscious effort to look at that term within the business of entertainment. So everyone's still learning how to do that successfully. Like, you name any celebrity with a good intellectual brand, it's all been made in the last 10 years. Ryan Reynolds' Wrexham, Logan Paul KSI Prime, Conor McGregor's Whiskey. It's all last 10 years. Even Adam Sandler films, that's only like 15 years.
It's interesting because in the past there has been these huge deals where you know, Michael Jackson taking the Beatles catalogue, and there's been times where you've gone, oh, this person has sold all their rights to the record companies. But the record companies in the past, all they did was then, right, we can rinse out albums or we can put the music on commercials. It was very limited. Where now, I saw literally the other day, one of the record companies is looking to buy Queen's catalogue. Now, you know that if they get that, we're going to then see multi-level, multifaceted things to do with Queen, because it would be stupid of them just to, well, let's release another greatest hits album, let's release some new artwork for this album. No one's interested in that. We want to see, look at ABBA, you know, that show is sold out all the time, and it's still going, and it's in its own purpose-built theatre, whatever it is. You know, do you know the show I mean? The ABBA, where it's them but not them.
I can't think what the name is, but I know exactly. ABBA Voyage? Yeah.
Yes. Huge. They've also had where you can go and do the interactive.
Sing Along Mamma Mia.
Sing Along Mamma Mia.
Then Normal Mamma Mia, two films.
And you're sitting in the actual set and you're part of the party or whatever. Yeah, 2 films. It's about basically going, right, what can we do? And Queen in the past, they did obviously Real Rock You,
Hmm.
and so they were onto it already. But
And Bohemian Rhapsody film.
Bohemian Rhapsody film, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
I think this is where intellectual property's changed, isn't it?
Mm,
Because you gave that example of Michael Jackson buying the Beatles catalogue,
yeah,
and yes, the term intellectual property applies, but it feels like a very different intellectual property than what we talk about today.
yeah.
That the only gain was monetary.
Mm,
Owning that didn't really enhance his fame, stardom, anything.
no.
Whereas Ryan Reynolds buying Wrexham, it's almost the direct opposite. There
Mm,
isn't really any financial gain there.
mm.
Probably was anticipating financial loss, to be honest.
Oh God,
But
football teams.
the way it boosts
Mm,
his name, reputation, stardom is unparalleled.
yeah.
It's gone in a very different direction in recent years. I guess you could even say there's like 2 forms of intellectual property now, which we don't yet have a label as to which is which. But it's a
Well,
very different concept now to 10 years ago.
again, it comes down to what people would accept as well. If I wouldn't have accepted exploitation of the Beatles
Mm,
music. People would be like, no, it's we weren't. You weren't expecting it to be used for anything but music.
yeah.
Maybe on a commercial, maybe but traditionally the Beatles never let their music be in commercials.
Mm,
So it's like now I think people are willing to accept, not, of course you could have done it, you could have done anything, but you're now willing to, Disney have brought out that Beatles film, for example. And you're always expecting new, different things now, where before new things weren't introduced. It was always, this is the music, these are the films, and these are the pop stars.
mhm.
And it was very rare that you would have anything which was different because even the pop stars who then became actors, they were just, okay, right, I will just go do a film. There was nothing,
Mhm.
just nothing. It feels like it was, if I was to do symbols, it would be that for anything where people were in. Now it feels like this the whole
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
You're allowed to go over there, you're allowed to do this, you know.
And if you link it to like economics, I guess really what we're seeing is entertainment is art's form of corporatization.
Mm,
Because that's all this is. We're turning like the Beatles into a restaurant, let's say.
mm,
It's corporatizing the brand.
yeah.
Obviously, we know across the world the biggest agenda is just corporatizing everything right now. Really, that is entertainment within the art space. It's a corporatized version of art.
Was musicals the start of that? Because
Jukebox musicals, probably.
because that was the sort of, that was the first thing where I thought, oh, that's a clever idea, because it's just
Mm.
clever ideas, isn't it? It's thinking out the box. And for years, no one did that. It seemed everything was just in their boxes.
I would say Jukebox musical is the start of that.
Mm,
I can't think of any product or film about an artist or anything before that. And I guess jukebox musicals also came at the point where we just got past our first generation of famous people, in a sense, like celebrity.
reality.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though Frank Sinatra was a music artist, you wouldn't put him in the same like music industry as Michael Jackson. The film stars of that era, like Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, you wouldn't in any way associate their film industry with that of Tom Cruise.
No, I must say, for those who are a bit older, who might be screaming at us right now, obviously the Beatles. The Beatles did a load of films. So
Mm-hmm.
did Elvis. Um,
Yeah.
so it has been done, but just not on a scale like it is now. Because if there's a young person who is big, you can bet your bottom dollar, for someone like me, when I see that person, I'm thinking, oh, they're a new actor or actress. But 9 times out of 10, if I come to you and say, "Oh, do you know this person?" You're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They do that." I'm like, "What? Oh, they're not. No, no, no. That's not their real thing. They do this. They do that." I'm like, "Fucking." Because when you're saying about Zendaya, the whole time I've been
Yeah.
thinking Zendaya. Is Zendaya the one who's in June?
Yes.
Right. She was in Spider-Man originally.
Well, not originally, but before that, yes.
Before that, and you're saying before that she was a pop star, or she sang?
had a single.
Right.
Her original thing was she was a child star on Disney.
Right.
She had 2 or 3 different children's TV shows.
Wow. Yeah. You know, when they have conspiracy theories, it's like you can see she has been built for entertainment industry. You know,
which is this concept of a school for stars. So Sylvia Young's.
Yeah.
It's what it is essentially.
It is. You're right. Sylvia Young's was. I don't know if it still has the same thing, Sylvia Young's, because I don't know. You know, I feel like saying, and I'm sure it still is it still actually happening? Is Sylvia Young still open?
I mean, even think of the concept of a child star. It's not as common now. Really, your last major child star was Justin Bieber, which is 15 years ago.
Millie Bobby Brown?
Yes, Millie Bobby Brown. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe I've come up with someone like that.
Yeah, you done me there.
But Millie Bobby Brown nowhere as big as Justin Bieber was.
Someone nowadays would probably want to argue Northwest. Obviously, that Northwest, you know, Kim Kardashian, Kanye's daughter, but that's latching off a lot of other people's fame.
Yeah, what has Northwest ever done?
I mean, she released a single probably 6 months ago.
Do you know
she was
what?
just on stage at the Hollywood Bowl with Lion King.
That's a classic Bailey and Stuart thing, isn't it? I always go, yeah, but come on, what has da-da-da ever done? And you'll be like, they've just won an Oscar, they've just done that. I'm like, fuck yeah, now.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Northwest ever.
How?
I suppose I don't watch the Kim Kardashians. I don't watch the Kardashians. I mean,
me neither.
No, but
I mean, it must just be a generational thing. I mean, for me, I know it's the TikTok.
When you said Northwest, I instantly thought of Kanye West for some. Oh, hang on, is that his dad?
Yeah, that's what I just said to you. It's Kim Kardashian and Kanye's daughter.
Kanye's daughter. Oh, it's a girl.
Yes.
Called North.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's probably why I've never heard of it. Then heard of him. Her. What a silly name, North.
Well, I mean, what do you expect from Kanye West?
Yes.
I think his other kid's called Saint.
Saint.
Just random. Saint. Like Saint Nicholas. Saint.
Okay. Yeah. Saint. Right. Oh, it's a bit like. Do you remember when Gwyneth Paltrow had that?
Apple.
Apple.
Yeah.
So my last thing here. Let's wrap this up. My last thing. It says, then go into how dance could benefit. What we're saying is everything that you're saying. Basically, it would work for dance as well.
Yeah. What I took from that article, obviously coming from like a dance entrepreneurial background, is dance has the choice to operate like Hollywood, like the acting industry, or operate like the music industry. It's impossible for an actor to act as themselves because then they're not acting. But a dancer can dance as themselves. So at the moment, like our whole training, traditional route, all of that is set up to go into casting to play somebody else, which is the acting version that actually limits stardom. There's no reason why a dancer can't dance as themselves. And actually, I think what we're starting to see with TikTok is the dancers who start getting fandom and become relevant are the ones who do dance as themselves. Casey Rice. Maddie Ziegler to a lesser extent through dance. Hers has more so come from exploiting the Dance Ones brand. I don't know what her proper name is, but the girl on TikTok at the moment called Giannina doing exactly the same thing. There's people becoming popular from putting out concept videos of them dancing in class, Obviously, in class, you're not playing a role. You are dancing as yourself, in essence. And the public are connecting with those people. We have a completely alternate version of a dance industry that we've never really explored. That I would say this article tells you has far more potential than our current industry setup. What's your thoughts, Stuart?
I'm seeing a course which is sold or part of. It's like you have acting, dancing, singing. Wherever you go and learn, alongside that should be the entertainment business course.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Or it should be your final year. Because what would you benefit more? But if you are a good dancer already, your third year, my third year, I had learned everything that I could learn in my first year because I went from zero to you get taught everything. In your second year, you go like that in your first year. The second year, you kind of go like that. And in your third year, it's about, doing performances, doing your graduation show, doing, assessments and things like that. And you don't actually learn much more. You learn a bit more kind of, I suppose you learn patience and tolerance because you want to leave. You learn to do your basically, it's like the cherry on top, but it's not enough. The cherry on top should be right. Okay,
they don't fill the cherry on top with cherries on top. They do more of what you'd already done.
Yes,
and that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's like to give you one example of what should go in that. I've often wondered if you're training these students to be stars, why they're not getting media training in their third year. If they're going to be a star, they're going to need that.
Yeah.
Stuff like media training is the cherry on top.
Yeah.
It's like we know we need a third year, but we've not yet actually worked out what that third year is meant to be.
Well, if you watch back our first podcast, we're nowhere as good and efficient with what we do as we are now. It's taking us a certain level of time to get to that point where we're much clearer with what we're saying. We're much, we've got better structure, stuff like that. If we were to have this training and recording, a podcast, recording, just having more access to these extra sort of things, we'd be so much further off.
But it comes back to the thing I feel like is becoming a bit of a catchphrase of mine. We're always told that as a dancer we need to act like a business, but we're never told what acting like a business is. All of these things are acting like a business.
Yeah.
You need to teach people how to grow their business, which comes back to exactly this thing of how dance can flip. Currently, even though technically you're a business because you're never employed in entertainment, you are within casting, you are still acting more like you have a job and are trying to get a job than you are acting like I have a business and I'm trying to grow my business. Flipping to a music industry model becomes way more I'm trying to grow my business, not I'm trying to get a job.
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge parallel. We're meant to be businesses, but our industry doesn't yet allow us to act like a business. And that really is the differentiation.
That's interesting. Yeah, because as an artist, it's like you're doing that all the time.
Yeah.
As an actor, you are doing that. I'm having to come to there and I'm stuck at this job and that's it.
That's it. You're climbing a ladder rather than expanding beyond the ladder.
Yes. It's always like to be an artist, you are spreading your tentacles around as opposed to just going on one route.
Yes, absolutely. One final thing that I just want to drop at the end of this, and I'm going to get your thoughts, Stuart, is I've often felt like this whole term we have in colleges of like, you need to be a triple threat, is guiding people into a massive trap. See, triple threat means you can sing, dance, and act. And anyone who is a triple threat, colleges are always going, oh, you can do everything, so go and be in musical theatre. Well, that example we gave today, Justin Timberlake, he can sing, dance, and act. And because he used them all separately, he became a star. Imagine if Justin Timberlake had gone into musical theatre. I don't want to say that the musical theatre scene is a lower standard, but would we all not agree Justin Timberlake in musical theatre would be a waste of his talent?
Well, I think I'd be saying who? Justin who? I don't know who you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's using your skills to the maximum potential. I think there's a lot of artists stuck in musical theatre who could do a whole lot more that they'll never even touch the surface of.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's kind of harsh to say, but I think it would be very hard to argue with.
Yeah, it's this massive thing of people wanting to make more of a big deal of the jobbing roles, of being an actor, being a dancer, the whole Dancers Network thing, where it's about, we've got to make this big, but it's like, well, yeah, but there's a ceiling, it stops.
So the best thing you can do to help the artists encourage them to start acting and thinking like an artist. The whole way our industry built is currently set up to encourage you not to think like an artist. Yeah. Which is what's the limit? That is the roadblock.
Well, there you go. The whole world's fucked. Well, yeah, I would have loved to have gone to an entertainment school.
Me too.
It sounds much easier than the when I think about my dance college, as much as I loved it, it was bloody hard. It was bloody hard, and it was soul destroying in some ways. That type of training is soul destroying because you're building yourself up for failure and rejection.
You're such a great example of this as well. Look at the evolution of your career.
Hang on, hold on. You better come out with something good now, because I just said...
Trust me, this is good.
I just said this all about whether it is failure and rejection. Go on.
Yeah, like look at the evolution of your career, all the different stuff you've done, all the different levels of where you grew it.
Yeah.
You would have benefited far more from entertainment school than dance college, musical theatre college.
Yes.
You didn't actually have the option that best suited the career you went on to. You should have been at an entertainment school that recognised all those things and went, Stuart, here's how to build it, but also here's how to keep it. Yeah.
No, you're right.
You needed the thing that didn't exist.
Definitely. Well, there you go. Cool. So, thank you, Bailey. Great.
Thank you, Stuart.
Great talking. Before we end, I just wanted to say, if you haven't seen our latest guest episodes, which include Christina Andrea, Dax O'Callaghan, Ian Bannum, and many more, do go and check them out. Obviously, if you're watching us now, you're probably watching us in the right place. We have switched channels to the Free Rings main talent thing. But am I right in saying if they're watching, they already know that?
Well, it depends. We may have brand new viewers today. If you're looking for the videos from season 1, you can actually still find them all within this same playlist on the main Three Rings channel. So you should be able to find them nice and easy.
Perfect. Cool. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. I'll see you in another episode very, very soon, Bailey.
Yeah, I'll see you very soon, Stuart. Before I disappear, remember to subscribe to the channel, give us a like on the video, and turn your notification bell so you know all about next week. Thanks, Stuart, and I will catch everyone next week.